Okay. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year!
I gave Bill a New York Times spelling bee sweatshirt, a genius sweatshirt for Christmas, and he has not taken it off. And anytime there's any discussion about like whether something's right, he points to the genius. So now you all will have to endure.
Yeah. So we often do start our mornings with the New York Times
Spelling
games.
bee, yeah.
So she did this by giving it to me. So anyway.
Yeah, but I actually said to him before we got started, I'm like, are you really going to wear that shirt, that sweatshirt on the quilts first?
It's so comfortable. I haven't taken it off since Christmas practically. So hello everyone.
Yes,
and
hello.
Wow, the New Year's is just coming in quickly here.
It's
How
coming
nice.
in hot.
Yeah.
So I'm so glad you all can join us. We have a lot to share with you, and I know a lot of people are going to be watching this later, but there will be rewards for those.
For those of you who are here right now, hang until the end.
Yeah.
There's a little treat coming.
Okay. So while we wait for others to join us, I just wanted to kind of start off the new year by saying I'm expecting this to be a rather tumultuous year. And I think a lot of people are. It's a very tumultuous world out there right now and a bit of a tinderbox. And I really think more than ever when we might feel powerless about changes that are going to be happening this year, that to be able to have a pleasant, safe, fun community where you can go any time of day to get some inspiration and to have a little fun and for there to be a lightness there will be more important than ever. And really deeply want to thank those of you who have been contributing to that positive community of now more than 20,000 people.
You've really been amazing for each other and for us. I mean, we really love this community, and it's a lot of work, but you make it worth it. And we're like 2025, as we said, I think you're going to be a big part of it and all together. And when I see people like Elaine saying this is your first live, welcome. I mean, it's such a great group.
And for the comment, I hope we're not going to talk politics. I haven't mentioned politics. You haven't mentioned politics.
No, we're not going.
Nobody's talking politics, but I think I don't want to pretend that it isn't going to be. There isn't a lot of change that's going to be happening, and there's a lot of things that are going to be. I think there's going to be a tumultuous year. I'd love to be wrong.
Yes.
But a lot of people are expecting that,
and so we want to have some really wonderful quilting for all of you as part of it.
Yeah. So the first thing to talk about is the My Word Mini Quiltalong, which starts Saturday.
And it's going to be a different kind of event. It's a totally free quilt-along. It's kind of our New Year's gift. It's a mini quilt-along. Yes. We're going to gather at 9 o'clock live here on Facebook and launch this event where people all over are going to be using the My Word alphabet design that we created in Modern Quilts Illustrated number 16 to add words or messages to their quilts. So we're going to kick it off at 9 o'clock. We'll reconvene at 11 to check in on everyone, see if people have questions. And then people are free to make what they want with our alphabet and kind of post their progress to the group.
But the goal is that there are some concepts about graphic design that Bill, and typography in particular, that Bill will be sharing with you and be showing you how and why to use those special characters that are part of the pattern. And we'll be able to, we want you to have a little time to process. We'll probably talk for an hour or so, from 9 to 10, and then give you an hour to work on it and kind of think through your plans and come up with some questions. And then we'll meet back at 11 to answer any additional questions you have.
Yeah, we want it to be both fun and a learning experience because, as Week said, I teach typography. I'm a graphic design professor, and this isn't going to be a class, but it'll have lots of tidbits. And we want every quilt that you make, whether it's using letters or colors or shapes, to leave you inspired with new tools, new ways of thinking about things for the next quilts you make. And we haven't done anything with type before like this. So it should be really a different kind of conversation.
And you can see one of the things that I'm going to try to start doing more this year is on a Facebook page, you'll see that there's an events section where because a lot of people seem to have difficult time finding the Quilts First Live or other live streams that we do. And so I'm going to try to make them events where you can say that you want to attend or you're interested in it. And that way it will appear in your calendar and you'll be able to find the link without having to look.
It'll give you a friendly reminder.
Yeah, just scroll backward to see if you can find it.
And just to touch base, the earlier question about the cost, this is just a free event.
Yes.
So it's for everyone.
Right.
If you can just tune in to listen. If you want to make something, the pattern is in our latest publication. So you either need that or there's a $10 download for people who just want to get the alphabet.
But let's be clear. If you don't have the publication now, we cannot get it to you in time for the Quiltalong unless you live in the Chicagoland area and are willing to come pick it up.
Yeah.
Do the curbside.
Or if you just wanted to download,
yes,
which is a separate download, the alphabet itself. But again, the goal is to have a real sense of community with this first event that just come.
Yes, and it is 9 Central on Saturday, and you'll be able to join it through the event on Facebook. It will be available afterwards on YouTube.
Yeah,
right?
So those of you who are new to any of our live stream events, such as this, when this is over, we always record this, and then we upload it, usually within 24 hours, usually faster, to our YouTube channel. So if you aren't able to attend a live stream, either the Quilts First like this, or one of the events, then check on our YouTube channel next day.
I know a lot of people don't like the ads, but the reality is the resolution is much better than watching it on Facebook.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of people who live in rural areas where the resolution isn't as good, or it freezes up on them
on the live
streams. So YouTube is really great for that. So, and yes, it is in Modern Quilts Illustrated 16.
Oh, Nancy, I'm glad. Thanks for saying the issue is gorgeous. We try so hard in what we do, whether it's fabric design or publication design, to have it be about the entire experience. So, like with issue 16, it's like we specify heavy paper. We have really nice photography because the typical magazine is really a vehicle for ads.
Yeah.
And we don't do advertising.
That's exactly it.
Instead, we want it to be something that inspires you, that doesn't tell you to buy. It just tells you to be creative. And so it's a lot of thought, and it's nice to hear that you get it.
So so if you don't have the pattern already, your best bet is to get it through the digital download. And the other thing that we wanted to clarify is This Quiltalong, it's really about this alphabet and how to use this alphabet.
Yeah.
We understand that there are lots of other alphabets out there.
But this is specifically for
to use this alphabet.
Yeah, because this alphabet is designed, if you have the publication or you just see the cover here, it's very unique. It's what we've talked about. It's a unicase alphabet. Some of the letters are uppercase, some are lowercase. We'll talk more about that on the live stream on the 4th. But the Quiltalong will be specifically using this so you understand the idiosyncrasies of this. What you learned in the Quiltalong could help you with any alphabet you use, but it's really geared towards this.
And Susan, I'm glad you like the cover. We debated whether that was a good idea, but we thought it was really fun.
So we had a completely different, more conventional cover.
Okay, this is,
Delete something there.
Yes.
So this is, originally it was going to be a photo, and a really beautifully styled photo with all the quilts. And then we had the idea, what if we actually just shot the quilt itself as the cover? And it turned out fun. So
we seem to have some haters here today, and I'll be banning them as quickly as I can.
She's on comment alerts here.
Right. And again, for those of you who are joining us for the first time, this isn't a lecture. This is a conversation.
Yeah.
If it's not for you, feel free to go to something else. Yeah. So let's see. Now you can do the number of any number of words for this, and you can the size of the quilt is highly adaptable.
Right.
You want to talk about that?
So we have a pattern for this, and actually, can you reach over and grab the quilt itself? Yeah. In the issue, there's a pattern, and you don't have to use this pattern for the Quiltalong, but the quilt on the cover is kind of a nice baby quilt size, and what's fun about it, it's way bigger than baby quilt. Okay.
Yeah.
But it's fun in that it uses strips from like jelly rolls or strip pies, or you could cut from yardage. Now, this pattern is really adaptable in that if you make the quilt larger, you can have more text. All of the letters are finished. The block finishes at 6 inches high. So once it's in a quilt, it's 5.5. So you're not going to write a novel with this, but you can have nice birthday wishes or anniversary wishes. Or we also have the pattern for the little pillow that I don't think you want yours to say number 16, but you might want a monogram.
There may be some kind of
sweet 16
granddaughter whose number is 16 on the volleyball team or whatever.
And this works with a standard 16 by 12 inch pillow. And it's a very easy pattern. It's a tuck, no zipper. If you want to be fancy with a zipper, you can do that. But in the publication, you see it's basically a long rectangle that's folded over, simple curved edges, and we did an overlock. We didn't even use a binding, we just did a simple overlock. But this size is great for a monogram or initials.
I would recommend that you do a binding on the edge and not just do an overlock. That's Bill was a little
deadline.
No worrying about that one. Oh yes, see now Elizabeth's gonna make a pillow.
Uniform number.
See, that's exactly what I said.
Oh, that would be
that's
really,
so cool.
Really great.
Yes, expansion to include Greek letters.
Oh,
Lynn, are you trying to kill us?
So, Lynn, I have to laugh again as a professor of typography. When you look at your keyboard and you see QWERTY and you see all the 26 letters and the 10 numerals, in typography, you don't often use the keyboard. There's another set that sometimes has 400 characters in it with, we're not doing that.
We're digressing. Okay, so this is, for those of you who love to use your stash, this is a great way because you can really mix the fabrics in there easily.
1.5 inch strips.
Right.
All of these work with 1.5 inch strips. And the way it works, as long as you don't use like highly directional fabrics, although even that doesn't matter so much. I think the goal when you're sewing these things, and we'll talk about this more, is if you look at like that, the E, you want fabrics that disguise the seams. That when you have a horizontal stroke and a vertical stroke, you don't see the seam so much. So we'll talk more about that on the 4th.
But as you plan what fabrics you're going to use, one of the things that will be helpful is to think about the value of the fabrics that you're going to use for the letters, value or saturation or hue versus the background. Because if there's a specific number or a letter that you want to highlight, you'll want to make that brighter or a different color or something like that. But conversely, you really want to make sure that you don't have one letter be a little bit too light, because then it will break up the word.
Yeah.
And
and Dina, I spy a plaid in your future too. And one of the other things and again, we're going to talk about this all with the 4th live stream, but you want to pick a palette where no one fabric stands out so much, because you want to read, in this case, modern. You don't want mod earn, because the E is so much brighter than the others, or so much darker. So you're trying to have a kind of cohesive palette.
Nancy, there will be there's a comma, there's punctuation in the pattern, so you don't have to worry about that.
Yeah.
And Barbara, we will not be talking about scaling the size of the letters. I know a lot of quilters think that it's just super easy to do that, but these are pieced, and scaling the letters involves very complex math, and especially with the angles involved here. So
we're using these at scale. And I will say, Week said with Nancy's question about the comma, there isn't a comma.
There isn't?
No,
Oh,
but
I thought there was.
It's a very easy improv, because the period is a square, so you can just basically do a half square triangle in its place.
Yeah.
So we totally understand if you want to improvise something that's not in here, if there's an accent on your granddaughter's name that's not here, that makes a lot of sense to improvise. We just want you to stick with the spirit of the alphabet.
Right, and we don't want you to decide that you're going to come to the Quiltalong and use Alice in Glasses or Tula Pink's alphabet.
Yeah,
or
but
whatever.
if you need the comma or you need a semicolon, there are certain limitations to the space.
Cheryl, we talk at length about saturation in our Quiltalongs in the color section about that, but the short answer is it's the vibrancy of a color. So if you think of a dusty pink versus a hot pink, the hot pink is more saturated and the dusty pink is less saturated, assuming that they're similar hues and there's similar values of lightness and darkness. It's just the purity or the intensity of the color. Hope that's helpful.
And it's often a secret sauce in quilting that sometimes if something is much more saturated than everything else, it stands out too much. Or if it's desaturated, it can stand out because it's not cohesive with the rest of the palette.
Yeah, Beverly said she did try to scale, and a lot of people did for the Kamala quilt, and some people had good luck with it and some people didn't. It's really
complex.
It's not like cooking where you can double the recipe or half the recipe, because there are measurements involved and you're going to end up with 8/16 or something like, or not 8/16, that would be fine, but 9/16 or something like that. And we wanted to go together, and the whole idea was we didn't want to do paper piecing because that's just it has limitations in it. It's not our favorite thing to do either.
And scaling, again, I'm not going into the weeds here, but as someone who teaches typography, when you print something out on your computer at one size and another, the font actually changes for the scale. The math changes.
But the other thing that changes is like the thickness.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
Of the
it's very complex.
The proportions change, and so unfortunately, because if it were that simple, we would just offer it on all of our patterns.
Yep.
You know, so if you want to take it on, feel free to take it on, but it's harder than it might seem.
It's hard.
So anyway, let's see. Did I miss any other questions?
Before we move on.
Let's see. Before we move on, I think I got them.
Okay, we're good.
Oh, and yeah, I'm wondering why does everybody want Greek letters? I'm guessing it's sororities or
I don't
fraternities or
know.
something. So maybe you can give that a go on your own. Okay, so you don't need to register for the Quiltalong, but you do need to make sure that you find the page, and it's on the main Modern Quilt Studio page, not the Modern Quilt Studio Fabrics and Patterns and Fabrics group.
And again, it's
9
o'clock with a
Central
follow-up
Time.
at 11 o'clock Central Time.
So the best way to make sure you can find it is by looking on the events page on our page, so you can see that you can see the Quiltalong.
And Anna has a question. Will it work to have a short phrase, her 6-letter ham radio call sign?
That's so cool.
That would be great.
Yeah.
And the idea of the white space, again, we'll talk about this on the live stream on the 4th, but people think that type is about the letters. It's just as much about the space between the letters. So we'll be talking about those relationships and spacing between lines, spacing between letters. So you're gonna get a little typography lesson on the 4th.
And Bill used to be a math teacher, so nobody can nerd out as much on math as Bill can, as much as any of you can. But I think maybe that's for the future.
Yeah, well,
maybe there will be more alphabets in our lives.
I think there will be more alphabets in our lives.
So maybe one will include Greek letters. So we'll have
or
to
maybe
see.
Not. Only if does it involve a trip to Greece?
Yeah. Oh, that would be good. Okay, so so just make sure that you find us at 9 o'clock, or look later on YouTube if you want to do it sort of self-paced later on YouTube. That works fine too. Okay, so now the big kahuna is we want to make sure.
Oh, it's redacted.
Yeah. Oh, okay. Good.
So, the homepage of our website right now has a giant food truck on it. The Sweet Tooth Quiltalong has begun registration. The Sweet Tooth Quiltalong is our next major modern mystery quiltalong starting February 14th.
Yes, and he has redacted the address for the platform, which will be the bakehouse. So for those of you who haven't heard about this,
or about our quiltalongs in general, because
right.
they're different.
They are very different, and we sign up, and we started selling the Sweet Tooth bundles early because it takes a long time for us to get all those orders out, and a lot of people like to be able to plan their sewing and that kind of thing for at least the next couple of months. So you will be, for our quiltalongs, there's always a narrative of some sort, and this time the participants will be baking assistants who operate a bakery truck, and it goes to various the Sweet Tooth truck, and Marie's giving you shade.
Hi, Marie. Weeks gets full credit for the sweatshirt.
She knows all about it.
Yes.
So you will be receiving a series of instructions of things you need to do, places you need to go, events you need to take the food truck, and there will be shenanigans, there will be silliness, there will be food, there will be music,
and lots
there will
of
be
sewing.
Community, there will be fun.
And the
Yes.
theme of the Sweet Tooth Mystery Quiltalong is going to be another one with learning and using transparency. It's going to focus on the
different.
concept of hue-based transparency, so kind of the idea of if you overlap blue and yellow, you get green. We've done earlier transparencies that things got lighter or darker. This is more about color shifts with overlap. And it uses, well, we have our bundle, if you could grab the Sweet Tooth bundle there.
Oh, no, this is the Fat Quarter bundle.
No. Oh,
I promise
yeah,
you it is.
yeah, I grabbed the wrong one, sorry. Yeah, I just saw that open. So,
Yes.
it's a big bundle of 22 half-yard cuts of our transparency watercolors that are designed to work together to make really beautiful hue-based transparencies. And we are going to do a preview video that's going to be out in about 10 days, talking more about the fabric selection for those of you who might want to use your own fabrics. The Quiltalong is designed to use these wonderfully in conjunction with a single background fabric. It could be light or dark. Some of you purchased our meringue print, which Benetex is completely sold out of, but we have, if I can grab that stack there, these will work really, really well with either a light or a dark background fabric. So we have Benetex's really nice, calming vanilla.
Okay, they're getting a whole lot of the same comments that I need to
okay.
address for a sec. For those of you who've missed the drama over the damask meringue fabric, we ordered a lot of it a year ago, and we told Benetex that we would need a lot of it because we were going to be using it in several quilts. For whatever reason, not enough was printed, and we did not get the amount that we ordered. So there's no more coming, unfortunately. Just the supply chains and the Houthi rebels and the Red Sea and all this has meant that the world has really changed post-COVID in terms of supply chains. And we used to be able to get reprinted fabric in a month, and now it's 3 months. And so, and we would have to order the
If at all.
Yeah, if at all. But we would have to order the entire print run. And our experience is that assuming that it's a similar number of people who've joined the last few, we would not be able to handle all of that fabric. So unfortunately, we didn't get what we had ordered, and they sold out before the line even got into shops. So there is no more damask meringue to be had.
The good news is there's lots of the color, the bundles that are the essential part of this Quiltalong.
So some of the damask meringue that we had will appear in the color wash. No, this is not in here. That's right. We were going to put it in the color wash quilt kits, but that sold out as well. So that we're using the vanilla.
Yeah. The
Superior
vanilla
Solids
works so well.
It's a similar background color, but it doesn't have that beautiful print that we're just so bummed about.
Yeah, we did our best.
But, yeah, we can't. This is just the reality that's really important and helpful for you to understand is the world has changed in terms of fabric availability, and just because you order something doesn't mean you're going to get it. And when things are out of stock, it's going to be a longer haul than it used to be to get them.
Yeah, and I think part of the issue is with fabric design in general, our planning starts so much earlier than it used to, but you don't find out what the reality is until the last minute. So if there are any changes, it's too
until
late.
It lands on our doorstep. I mean, literally.
We literally don't know.
We don't know.
And we've even had situations where we've ordered, they've said they're going to reprint, they give us a date, and then they miss those deadlines because of global events. So we do our best to manage expectations, And we design in such a way that there's a backup plan. Like we knew it would look great with like the white or the vanilla or...
But we had the same situation with the original transparency line that was supposed to arrive, and then it arrived, you know, the last day of the Quiltalong. So, you know, I want to just be really transparent.
Transparent, yeah.
and honest with you about fabric availability, so you can understand that we all will have to be more flexible moving forward, because it's just the shipping routes around the bottom of Africa have changed. We're working on a fabric line for winter of 2026 right now. That's how far in advance we have to
working on is in almost done with.
Yeah. So it used to be a 9-month schedule, and now it's closer to 2 years. And so be patient with us, but sadly, damask meringue, there is no more background fabric coming in. So we'll have to make other options.
So we have options, and it would work really well if you have tone-on-tone prints or solids.
As long as they're low contrast.
And the goal is these are the start of the show. So whatever background fabric you pick, and again, we're going to have a whole video about this, needs to have good, clear contrast. In this case, lighter, or I've got 3 bolts of darker solids that whoops, I'm almost dropping these. These are all heavy. I have dark blue, espresso, and eggplant. And these all look fantastic. The difference is, if you use one of these, it'll be a very kind of stained glass, glowy, luminous quilt. If you use a lighter fabric, it'll be a very airy, summery quilt. So I think whenever we do a quilt along, it's always a bit of a struggle for me, because I want to see it. I have a hard time deciding which version we're going to make. And it's one of the reasons I love the Quiltalong is we all get to see each other's quilts. So if you've looked at any of our virtual exhibitions from past Quiltalongs, you can see how there's a complete transformation based on that background fabric.
So there are a bunch of questions that have come up that I'm going to try to get to before they get buried. One is about, Susan is asking about grunge. I think grunge can be really challenging to use. So let me just back up. This is about really subtle color work and little differences that you're going to see between colors. So I think you really want the background fabric to be as flat as possible.
Yeah.
Because otherwise shifts in, grunge is not a uniform.
No, it's very patchy.
Yeah.
I love grunge.
Yeah.
And we have a quilt in issue 16 made with using grunge.
Oh yeah,
fabric.
I actually showed that quilt.
And I think this will help explain it. So
that's a perfect example.
So this is a quilt called Vows. And if you haven't seen this, the reason the grunge background fabric, it's kind of a terracotta, the reason it works so well is those patch motifs are very, very graphic. Like from a distance, you still read them. And the patchiness of that background grunge is fine because you read it as an overall field. With this transparency quilt for Sweet Tooth, there's a lot more detail. And you want to focus on those small details, which are going to be overshadowed by some of the kind of blotchiness of the grunge. So I think it's a case where you have to embrace the beauty of the grunge, but realize that it has certain limitations.
And I think when there's really subtle color work happening with a quilt, it's very delicate. You don't want any distractions from that. I think if you you really want to have something other than a solid, then I would just look for a really small scale, low contrast,
Tone on tone.
kind of tan on cream or something that's going to be definitively darker or lighter than any of the fabrics you're using.
And there are a couple almost white on white grunges, but I don't think I would, I think I would just skip grunge for this in general, because the very pale white on white grunge has a lot of what's called pigment, which is kind of an overprint that it's just a very different kind of print than the watercolors. And I think
I haven't seen, there are so many grunge fabrics, but I haven't seen them all. But basically, if from a distance you see any sort of pattern,
avoid it.
Avoid it. If there are some fabrics that where it's so subtle that if you cut it up, you wouldn't see a seam. And if it can do that, then that would work, because I don't want to, I haven't seen them all because, but in general, similarly with batiks, you don't want any blotchiness, let's see.
I'm smiling because I'm looking at the comments, and there was a question of, is it too late to sign up for the Quiltalong? Not at all, because the Sweet Tooth Quiltalong went live about 20 minutes ago. So the signups have just started. The Quiltalong actually begins on February 14th. And the mini Quiltalong, the My Word mini Quiltalong, which is this Saturday, there's no sign up. It's free. You just show up.
And Pat saying like a linen look neutral. Yes.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, that would be great. I'm glad you like the Vows quilt. That's
thank you, Darcy. I just realized I have to post. I made a little video to supplement that, and we have to post it.
Oh, yeah, we need to do that. Put it on the list.
Yeah, it's on the list. So the Vows quilt is, for those of you who have
we're getting to
she's like, okay, she's cutting me off.
I'm trying to stay on task here. Okay. They have questions.
Yes.
They came here to get their questions answered.
Yes.
You can answer that. How about later?
Okay.
Yes. So the question about, is there a Spotify playlist? Yes, there is. It's there are some songs were also in, I think maybe in the poolside mix at the
only a couple.
Only a couple, but it's music that you would expect to hear in a
coffee shop, bakery, around. Yeah,
but
I love food trucks, so they often have nice music piped around. So some of them are Sweet Tooth inspired. Others are just like, we want this to be a pleasant, relaxing,
chill,
good, chill vibe.
Chill, but not, sleepy.
No.
Yeah.
Chill
Just
but
kind
festive.
Of cheerful,
upbeat.
Fun, upbeat. Yes. And there are also T-shirts and merch with the Sweet Tooth logo on it at the bake house.
No,
what's it called?
It's the Sweet Tooth Bakery.
Sweet Tooth Bakery.
We got to get all this lingo right.
I know.
The bake house will be the portal.
The whole day we spent working on this.
We didn't just work. We've been working on
this
for 8
Keep him on track. Dina, it's going to take more than you imagine.
So, no, we've been working on this for a year, but a lot of it comes together. The details come together.
There are short sleeve T-shirts, crew neck and V-neck, crew neck sweatshirts, and long sleeve T-shirts and coffee mugs, right?
Yes.
Okay. In various colors,
with the
sizes,
Sweet Tooth truck on it. And
inclusive sizing.
Yeah, we haven't gotten ours yet. We have to. I'm wearing my New York Times game T-shirt.
He's never taking it off.
But
okay.
Maybe next time I'll have a Sweet Tooth shirt.
Okay, so somebody said, is this Great British Bake Off, inspired? And no, because although we love that show and we'll watch it religiously, we don't want to get any competition. This is not, quilting has way too much competitiveness in it for us.
We're not kind of competitive people. But I will say, I do admire the camaraderie of that show, and I think that is something that the participants here are really good about, supporting each other.
So Carolyn wants to know, will this be more like summer camp or daybreak? I don't know what daybreak is.
New Day.
New Day maybe is what you're thinking?
It's going to be more the scale of kind of Lighthouse Inn and summer camp. that there will be, we'll be making some somewhat intricate blocks. They're generally finished around 9 inches. I'm not going to give you too much detail right now because not everything's a block.
There will be some templates.
Yeah,
Not
it's not heavy template.
Not heavily template.
You know,
but no commercial templates are needed.
No. It's we will, in our preview video on the 10th, we will talk more in detail. I just don't want to misspeak about anything right now.
Well, I think the most important, there are two real important points that might help you decide whether this is for you. One is that the color work is going to be is challenging. If you're not using our bundle, the color work will be as challenging, if not more challenging, than the piecing, I think.
Well,
for some people.
Yeah, I think.
For some people.
I don't want to be scary here because.
Oh, she meant lighthouse.
The idea. Oh, okay. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, more like lighthouse. So, the color work, we're going to be guiding you through this, and there will be steps taken to help you be successful in all of this. So
but finding the fabrics. Yeah.
Yeah, and
I mean, we designed this line specifically for this quilt.
And we also did, for those of you who may have done Secret Agent Quiltalong, we designed that line with that in mind. Many people also develop their own palettes. And if you go to the Secret Agent Quiltalong virtual exhibition on our site, it helps you see the wide range of what's possible. And I think there'll be a lot of possibilities here, but you know, without a doubt, this is going to work beautifully. And we've also designed this quilt that no matter what you do, I don't think there'll be two quilts. There's going to be a huge amount of variety, even among the people using the same fabric.
Lots of choices.
Again, I'm sorry if you don't know what I'm talking about with the Secret Agent Quiltalong, but with the Secret Agent Quiltalong, maybe a quarter of the quilts shared a lot of similarity. There were minor differences. There will be even less similarity here using the same fabrics. So.
It's just the value-based transparency, I think, is a little bit easier to execute because as long as you get the light, medium, and dark right, it's convincing. I think it's a little bit harder with the hue-based transparencies.
And, you know, I think they're going to be beautiful quilts, though.
But for those, somebody earlier was talking about she loved the browns, and you'll see that the browns will be necessary in a hue-based transparency because if you're overlapping a blue and an orange, for example, you're gonna need a brown.
Yeah, although there are 4 kind of tan brown neutrals in this line. The bundle includes the 2 mediums. The darkest brown and the lightest aren't in there. They're gorgeous too, but yeah.
So Elizabeth said her Secret Agent hoodie is a fave and worn regularly. He didn't want to do hoodies, but I think if there were a lot of people who wanted hoodies, I might be able to talk him into it. He doesn't like hoodies.
I don't like hoodies.
Yes.
I like sweatshirts, but I can put a hoodie up.
Yeah. So let us know if you really want a hoodie. Okay, so the registration is open for those of you who just want to register. It doesn't start until February 14th. And this is for the Sweet Tooth Modern Mystery Quiltalong.
And if you haven't done a Quiltalong with us before, when you purchase the Quiltalong, you will immediately get an email with a link that allows you to download a 2-page PDF called the Sweet Tooth Guide. You'll want to download that, save it, print it out right away. It has fabric requirements, but the most important thing is it has a secret web page address on it. And that's where you'll go for all the future downloads, for the video tutorials, to get the Spotify playlist. That's called the Bakehouse. That's the portal. And that is the key to everything. And I know it's a bit of a broken record, but whenever we do a quilt along, I do have to say we can't provide technical assistance.
Your library can do that though.
They're great at that, but
lots of hoodies. Yes to hoodies.
Oh, okay. We're hearing you.
Okay.
Oh, and Elizabeth likes the full zip. Okay,
Yeah,
you like your full zip.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, I'm listening. Okay, good to hear. But the guide that you get will be the key to everything. Once you have that, there are no future emails. Everything is done through that secret web portal.
But you must print it out, because you will need that address that's at the top of the guide for the entirety of, even if it's a year from now.
And you want to go back.
And you want to go back. You will need that. And we cannot resend links constantly. It's a nightmare for us.
We just can't.
We cannot do it. So once we can see whether you've downloaded it or not. And if you say, oh, I forgot, I broke my arm, I couldn't do it or whatever, resend me the link. I will check to see whether you've downloaded it. And typically most people have, and it's in their downloads. But a lot of people seem to have a difficulty finding their downloads on their devices. So print it out. And if you don't have a printer, then you're going to need to take a screenshot of it or something.
So you have that.
So you have
take a picture of it.
Yeah, you could take a picture of it or whatever. Yeah. But we will not send expired links. Yeah. We cannot. It just becomes out of control. So the size is like 58.
It's 54 by 80-ish is the napping quilt, and 96 by 94 is the queen size quilt.
The variation.
And yeah, so you could do one or the other. And you can change it a little bit. I always say ish because there will be details, but those are the rough sizes.
We've also given you options on the in the fabric selection that we'll go into more detail in the video on the 10th for backing, because this is a really tricky situation we always get into with backing, because in many cases you could piece the backing in 3 pieces in 3 yards, for example, for a quilt this size. But you might not like to have 2 seams in the back, so then you're going to need 5 yards.
Or you may have
you have a long armor.
Long armor. Some of them say I need 2 inches extra. Some say I need 6 inches extra. So a backing could be as little as 3 yards and as much as 5. So we want to be responsible with your time and your money and your fabric. So treat those backing requirements as a guideline. Similarly with binding, it could be anywhere from 1/2 to 3/4 of a yard for the napping quilt, because some people cut 2-inch strips, some cut 3.5-inch strips. It's a big difference.
So yes, those of you putting it on, printing it out and having a folder is really a great idea.
That's what we do.
That's what we do. Yeah, exactly.
I have a 3-ring binder for every quilt along.
Because there's a lot of steps, and there are a lot of pages that you're going to need to print out, and being able to have them all organized. At some point, you might need to refer back to previous units.
And it's interesting. With our quilt-alongs, we like to give people detailed instructions, and so there are a lot of pages involved. If you have a magazine and there are directions in a magazine, the type can actually be very easy to read, even when it's somewhat small, because it's such high quality printing. With a quilt along, we want to be able to have you read it regardless of whether you have a 10-year-old printer or a top-of-the-line laser printer. And the type's going to be a bit bigger. It'll take a few more pages, but
And I'll also address now that some people have said, oh, could you just make it a gray screen or
a grayscale?
Get grayscale or not put color in it.
No.
We need, especially for this quilt along,
about color.
You're going to use some toner, and that's just going to be part of the expense
Yes.
of the Quiltalong, because we need for you to make sure, in order for it to all go together and to have the transparency effect, we need to make sure that the color that we have put in one place actually ends up in your quilt in that place, or it's representative.
Yeah, you have to understand color relationships. It's not about matching color. You don't need a color match printer or anything.
No. What I'm saying though is that
we just want clarity.
The positions of various colors will matter in order to be able to execute. Yeah. So keep the color good. Okay, so then let's see. So, we decided to go to the half-yard bundles because
that's right.
When we went in the last
in the Secret Agent Quiltalong, we did quarter-yard bundles, and
it was a smaller quilt.
It was a smaller quilt, but it was tight. These are big bundles. They're heavy. I'm holding it. It's heavy. It's more than enough. We didn't want
But it's not enough for two people to use.
No. Yeah. It's enough. Again, people are going to make different variations, so they'll use different amounts of different colors. And I think that these are such versatile fabrics that whatever is left over, you're going to love having in your stash.
But I don't think it's not, I want to make clear that we didn't put the entire line in this bundle. There's just 22 of the 24 in there to keep it the cost down. But if you want to have choices and you want to have a little bit extra in case you miscut something, this is the least amount we could get.
It's a balancing act, and if you're doing the queen, we recommend getting 2 of these bundles. Honestly, you're going to have a bunch more extra with the queen, just the way it works. But because part of the joy of this Quiltalong is that everyone's quilt is different, you need to have the 2 bundles to make sure that you don't run out of anything.
So let me ask you though, because I saw that, could they get a fat quarter bundle and a half-yard bundle?
Most likely they could, but
they might end up
if they just went heavy on one color.
Yeah.
So
okay.
The queen, you could honestly, you could get away with a half-yard bundle and a fat quarter bundle. The reason I didn't recommend it is just if you're cutting a certain size, the fat quarter, it's not contiguous yardage. So this is where I feel so responsible for this.
We do. We do feel very responsible, and we debate, and I'm actually really interested in feedback about this because we tried to be super economical with Secret Agent, and then a lot of people ended up buying it 10 by 10 to amend it because it was just a little too tight, or they made one cut.
But they didn't want the stress of miscutting. And so
this will give you a lot of flexibility.
And whatever is left over is going to be beautiful in your stash.
Yeah. So a couple of other things. Let's see. And I've gotten some emails from people a lot of people travel in February and aren't going to be near their sewing machine or whatever, and wondering if they can cut things out. During the Quiltalong. If you haven't done one of our Quiltalongs, you may make the totally understandable assumption that this would be a situation where you're just going to cut out a bunch of things and sew them back together, but that's because you haven't done one of our Quiltalongs. So sometimes you cut and you sew and you cut again.
Yeah,
you're not necessarily done.
If you ask me, our Quiltalongs aren't necessarily the most travel friendly. If I were traveling in the middle of a Quiltalong, I would just pause it and catch up when I got back because our Quiltalongs don't have an expiry date. You can just start and stop when you want, and There are people who are just starting the Lighthouse or the Secret Agent Quiltalong this week from a year or two ago. So, yeah, these aren't the most portable. It's a good Quiltalong to do in your sewing space.
And at the pace that because somebody else, emailed me and said that, like, could I just get a list of all of the things from summer camp that I have to cut up? And it's like, it's not that simple, unfortunately. It's just because we were trying to make it a mystery. Yeah. So the format is that not everything is
in order, in sequence.
Yeah.
Everything is in order.
Yes. And Janet, I like your suggestion of the 12 by 12 plastic craft box. Yeah. For everything. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Okay, so, and then I do want to mention for those of you who are asking about the color wash kits, they are, the pattern is in them, and because we ran out of the damask, we're making them with the vanilla, but they are back in stock on the website. A lot of you went, how many weeks and months are Quiltalongs? They're short.
There are 6 installments. The first 5 installments are spaced 1 week apart, and then there's a 2-week gap between the 5th installment and the final one to give people a chance to catch up and to catch up. So it starts on the 14th of February, and the final installment is released 7 weeks later.
But there are, it's an intense experience, especially if you're part of the Facebook group, that there's just like this flurry for 6 weeks.
Intense is
yeah, it's intense and immersive, I would say.
I mean, intense in a really fun way.
Yeah.
I think.
But I think I like that pace more because I feel like you can just be in it and focused on it.
Yeah, there are people who do Quiltalongs where there's a monthly installment, and that lacks momentum.
Well, it works for them.
Yeah.
But they don't have a narrative that they're trying to keep up, and there's a whole lot of silliness and shenanigans and stuff that are happening on there. So, yes, immersive, right, Laura? Yes, immersive is the way. I kind of like it like that because I feel like it transports you. It sounds so corny, but it kind of transports you to this make-believe, this pleasant fantasy world for a few weeks.
Well, and it's fun for us because, as we said earlier, we work often a year out, and so, like, the immersion for us, and I mean, I go down rabbit holes, but I know a lot about different models of food trucks now, and because I just want to think differently about what the experience could be, because it's got to be a great quilt, it's got to be a good learning experience, but we want it to be more than that.
We feel like it should be like this little fantasy world that you can get lost in for a little bit.
Yeah.
And I love that Andrea said her friends say that she turns into a quilting dork each time. I think that's high praise.
Yeah.
I think that's to be celebrated.
Badge of honor.
Exactly. And I'm glad that yes, the idea of the immersion is that you don't get sidetracked as much. And there will be people who will be working at different paces. There's usually a cohort that starts at the beginning, and then as soon as maybe by week 2, there's a flurry of activity on the Facebook page, and then a whole separate cohort starts, and then there's a, which I lovingly refer to as the cohort with trust issues.
Oh yes, they don't start until people have posted the finished quilt.
Yeah, and that's fine. It's totally fine.
And
but I'm like, they're not really sure that they want to do it, and then they see the final thing, and they're like,
I have to admit that when I first heard about mystery quilts, my initial reaction was like, why in the world would anyone do that? Like, why would you make something if you don't know what it's going to look like? I totally get it now because it's about trusting the designer's style, their way of teaching, their writing of patterns. So I totally get it now. But For me, well, for you, there are a lot of newbies who have introduced themselves today.
And we're thrilled you're here.
And we love having you here. And I'm going to encourage you to go to modernquiltstudio.com and look under Quiltalongs at the past exhibitions. And those of you who have finished quilts but not submitted, it's not too late. Every couple weeks we update the exhibitions. So there are, hundreds of secret agent quilts and lighthouse inn quilts and new day quilts and summer camp quilts. I will encourage you, those of you who participated in the Hive mini Quiltalong recently, a lot of you have posted your beautiful quilts on the Facebook site but haven't submitted them. So I would love to get, I love the Hive quilt. It's completely different from the mystery Quiltalongs. So, here's the pattern, make it. But the work that you all did is stunning. And we never post anything. We don't take your photos from Facebook and post them. We only post things you have submitted directly to the submission site, so that we know that we have your permission to use them. So please, 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 if you haven't submitted your Hive quilt, but you've done it, please add it, because gosh, I love those quilts that you've done.
Susan wants us to show the dark backgrounds again.
Oh, okay. So can you hold this to give my hand a break?
I know it looks black, and it doesn't even need to be this dark, but the whole idea is that you really want it to have some contrast. So it doesn't have to be that dark a blue. It's just
blue.
Darker than the darkest blue here.
Espresso brown, eggplant.
But there are lots of other options as well.
I would just avoid, I like the darkness. We talked about saturation earlier. I would not encourage you to use like a bright green or a bright red, because those are going to draw so much attention to themselves and will overpower the nuances of the transparency work. So
somebody like Nancy's recommending that we let people know that the Hive quilt is in issue 16.
Oh, good reminder.
Somebody in a not so nice way said, well, why did you put it in the magazine if you've already, I already paid for it? There are lots of people who didn't participate in the Quiltalong, and then there are other people who would prefer to have a paper version of it. So,
and there's additional information on picking the palettes in here.
That wasn't included. So it's a really difficult, we feel like we cannot please people in terms of patterns,
With patterns, if we have a digital download, that's going to have certain limitations, because we can't control the color work. Everyone's printer is different.
But also it was a Quiltalong with videos, and that was a separate thing than this. So anyway, but that's in there. So you wanted to talk about the Val's quilt, and I cut you off because I wanted to make sure we have one more bit of business, but I will
I'll
let
just do it really quickly.
Talk about the Val's quilt.
So the Val's quilt, this is actually a quilt we made as a wedding gift. And the patches, when you look at this, it may look like a two-color quilt. And this issue is all about scrappy modern. The reason the Val's quilt we considered it scrappy, is a little unexpected. Those patches, I can't remember, there are 11 of them or something. Each of them is made with a different tone-on-tone oatmeal color. So it uses a scrappiness within a very tight color palette. The background is a single fabric, but we always do color variations. So you could do these color variations that could be, different. I guess there are 10 of them. It could be multicolored, it could be two colors, it could be scrappy within one hue. But if you're looking for a different kind of structure, a different kind of assembly, the Val's quilt is really unlike any other quilt we've made. It's a combination of improvisation and structure. So let's say you don't have the time to make a giant quilt. You might make one of those little kind of patch blocks just to learn the technique, because I think it's really interesting.
There's a lot of fun you can have with that.
You can.
So a couple questions. Somebody was asking where to buy our magazines. All of our publications, we don't put dates on them because the patterns are evergreen. And so if you look on our website, we have a pattern finder in the shop, and you can look and see a quilt you're interested in, and it'll tell you where to find it. Our publications are available at local quilt shops around the world. However,
and on our website, of course.
But what I was going to say was, because it's not a dated magazine that's, that you throw in the recycling after a month, a lot of shops don't purchase it because they think it's weird to just have like issue number 7 or something like that. And so if you can find it at your local quilt shop, great. But our experience has been that most quilt shops do not have all of them.
No, usually quilt shops, they buy a lot of them, but they tend to do projects.
Classes.
So they may do a class, let's say the Vows quilt, and they'll buy a bunch of issues for that class. But we just as often get orders for issue number 2 or issue number 9, because someone is making a quilt or teaching a class based on one of those quilts. So we keep all of them in stock at modernquiltstudio.com. That's the best place to find them, but ask at your local quilt shop for sure.
A couple other orders of business. If there are any UK quilters watching, the Magazine Man is ordered Modern Quilts Illustrated 16, and that would be the only way in the UK
Yes.
to get your hands on that. The other thing is, Canadian friends, we're still hanging out. We're still hanging out waiting.
We feel for you in Canada.
Yeah.
For those who don't know, there was a very, very long postal strike, and although the strike has ended, the U.S. postal system still cannot send mail until they've caught up. So we have a stack of back orders that we literally can't ship because the U.S. postal system still cannot accept them.
Pat wants to know if black is too harsh for the sweet tooth background. Absolutely.
I would not go black.
Yeah, I think it's going to be way too harsh for it. Let's see. Did the newlyweds appreciate the thought behind the design? I hope so.
Yeah. We weren't at the wedding.
It was a COVID
situation. So,
but we've known the mother of the bride has been a dear
mother of the groom.
Mother of the groom has been a dear friend of ours for more than 20 years, and we've known that the groom since he was in first grade. So it was meaningful to be able to make that, and I'm really glad a lot of you all liked the idea behind it, because I worried whether it was too...
Do you want to explain?
So the whole idea of the Vows quilt was that double wedding ring is often considered the wedding quilt.
It's a traditional wedding quilt.
We've been married for, this year it will be 29 years. And I feel that marriage is a commitment to continue to work through challenges, and that the idea is that you're committing to constantly reinvest in the other person and make amends for your own shortcomings, and offer grace to the other. Yeah. So the idea of the Vows quilt is a minimalist idea. But the idea is that you patch up your differences whenever they happen. So that was kind of the whole idea about it.
And it's kind of the idea we both love. There's a Japanese tradition of boro, of Well, there's a Japanese tradition in both textiles and ceramics of mending broken or used or worn things to extend the life, and that it becomes imbued with more meaning over time and through repair. And so that's kind of what we were going for with this vows. And I think we thought it was a really beautiful sentiment, and
it's not the traditional.
No.
It just went happily ever after.
Yeah, it's
all you need is love.
Totally not traditional.
Yeah.
But for us, thinking through those kinds of concepts leads to new forms.
Yeah.
It's not a double wedding ring quilt.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. The gray would work for a background, and for the earlier question about the damask meringue, our order, we did not get as much as we ordered, and there is no more coming as far as we know, unless they decide to print it and then let us know. But it would take at least 3 months to get here.
So gray would work. It doesn't have to be as dark as these. These
no,
were just,
it doesn't.
You could have a really kind of medium warm. A lot of things will work. So again, the January 10th video, we'll talk even more about that.
Was just able to jump in. Did they make other recommendations? You mean about the damask?
January 10th, we will have a preview video with even more. But since you just joined us, shall we, do you have, so I know we've gone a little longer than usual. So those of you who have hung in here, there's a little reward for your patience.
Well, not all.
Not necessarily a reward, but a chance.
So, for those of you who are joining live, and if you don't have one yet in particular, type in calendar right now into the comments section, and the first 8 people who do that, we will ship you a calendar.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. This is our little gift to you, and we get a few of these from the quilting publisher. So we will share them with the first 8 people.
Oh, you're faster. Okay.
Okay. So, and everybody can see in the chat. Those of you, for the first, are we at 8 yet? I think we're at 8. So everybody count down.
We've hit it.
However it fit into the sequence.
And I apologize for those of you who,
like, more.
If I were watching on my phone, I would be like number 100. I'm like, type one finger at a time. I'm the old guy.
Okay. So the first 8 who are in the, let's see, we have to go back now.
Okay, this is where I'm
hold on, we have to go back and just get in order here. So Luana Swanson Gruber, Denise Stahl, Nancy, whoa, see, now it just jumps around.
Okay.
Oh gosh, hold on.
Why don't we just message them later?
Well, because then that's more work for me.
Okay.
Okay, so let's see, where did it go?
Well, we're way past 8, so you guys stop at this point.
Yes, so let's see. Oh gosh, that was so fast.
Yeah. Okay, it's still going. So we're way past 8. So
hold on.
Yeah.
So anyway, maybe it would be helpful if those of you, let's see, can we? Oh, get back there.
Oh yeah. It's going to keep going because people are still.
Yeah. Okay. So. Yes. Here we go. Yeah, it's just jumping around too much. Okay, so if you I'm going to go back later after the people have stopped typing and look at the first 8 people whose comments made it into the section. I think we crashed the site. Yeah, I think that's what happened. Because this is the most sort of the fairest way to do it. If everybody could go back and look at the sequence in which the names appeared, we're asking the first 8 people only to email us at sales@modernquiltstudio.com. Your
sales@modernquiltstudio.com.
Your mailing address. Please, if your name is not in that first 8, please don't email us.
Yeah,
we have hundreds of emails we have to get through every day. So if we had more, we would absolutely give them away. But this is the first 8. That would seem to me the fairest way to do it. And all of these include the patterns.
And if you weren't among the first 8 and you still wanted to get that, there is on our website, there's a link to purchase it off our site. Not on our site, but there's a link that takes you to a different site where you can purchase it.
Somebody purchased one on calendars.com and there weren't patterns inside. So
that was a mistake.
That was a mistake. And if that happens, you just contact calendars.com. There's a phone number at the bottom, and I'm sure that they will replace it.
They were supposed to be there.
Yeah.
So happy New Year to you all. It's
lots.
We'll see a lot of you on Saturday for the My Word free mini Quiltalong to usher in the new year. Think of your word or your kid or grandkid or neighbor's jersey number if you want to do that. We'll have fun with it.
And you can do entire sentences. You don't even have to follow the pattern. We just wanted to give you some pattern, but any size you want to do, any of that, we will help you with.
Yeah.
So I hope that we can, and for those of you who weren't here at the beginning, we really, really value your positivity and your support of each other. And I think more than ever, we're going to need that this year. So please continue to share what you're working on and encourage other people. We get all kinds of private emails from people who are going through really difficult situations who participate in that group. And it's a really wonderful reminder. And I want to respect their privacy, so I can't share that. But it's really helpful to be aware when you're seeing comments or reading comments that there may be somebody there are a number of people who are going through cancer treatments or grieving a lost loved one, or a variety of health challenges. So being graceful with people and
graceful and supportive.
Gracious, I guess, is the better way to put it. And supportive and positive is really welcome, and it's not that common on social media. So I will continue to be ruthless in making sure that we keep that positivity within our group.
So join us throughout 2025, and we'll keep making this happen. So thank you all for joining us.
Have a good evening. Happy New Year.
Take care. Let's get a photo.
Okay, I gotta get those 8 names.